Hey guys, we're back. We're going to do Acts chapter 22 today. So you need to fire up your pencils and light your papers on fire. No, don't light your papers on fire. That would be bad. But get paper and pencil ready so that you can draw along and do that as the way that we take notes through the book of Acts. Let us open up the visualizer and we will get ready to go. Okay, in our last chapter, they were all trying to beat up and kill Paul. And then the soldiers came and they arrested Paul. But honestly, it's almost like they were arresting him so that he wouldn't get killed because they beat him up. And the centurion was, I think he's a centurion, the leader guy, he was surprised that Paul was speaking his language that he could understood. He thought that Paul was one of those assassin guys. He says, no, I'm not. So he gets up and the chapter ends with this statement. Paul, standing on the stairs, beckoned with his hand unto the people. And when there was a great silence, he spake unto them in the Hebrew language, saying, brethren and fathers, hear the defense which I now make unto you. And so this is where we ended up. He's about to give this defense, as he calls it. He's about to basically do a little sermon about what is going on. And so he says, brothers and fathers, hear the defense which I now make unto you. That's where he starts speaking. And when they heard that he spoke unto them in the Hebrew language, they were the more quiet. So they're going to really listen to him. He is a Jewish guy and he's speaking in Hebrew. So they're going to pay attention to what Paul says. We got to figure out, are they going to listen well or listen poorly? So this is what Paul says about himself. I am a Jew born in Tarsus of Cilicia, but brought up in this city. What's the city? Jerusalem. He's from Tarsus of Cilicia, but he grew up. He's really from this city, Jerusalem, at the feet of Gamaliel, instructed according to the strict manner of the law of our fathers, being zealous for God, even as all you are this day. All right. So he grew up. We have to draw baby Paul, not baby Paul. I'm still going to give him a beard because that's what Paul looks like. But I'm going to give him like a baseball cap. So he's like a kid. Here's Paul. He likes this team and he's having fun. And he's got a baseball glove. I don't know how to make Paul look like a kid. So I'm just going to make him look like he's a baseball kid. All right. So there's
Maybe Paul. You should give him a goatee instead of a beard.
Oh, that's true. Well, anyway, there's Paul and he's growing up and he's a kid and he's growing up. In what city is he learning and growing up in? Jerusalem. So that means, does he probably like Jerusalem or not like Jerusalem?
He likes it.
He probably likes it. He's saying, I'm from here, guys. And he says that I grew up at somebody's feet. Whose feet? Gamaliel's feet. And so Gamaliel, I'm going to draw him. He's got old baggy eyes. He's got an old long beard. He's got ears and he's a bald old man, but he was a really good teacher. And so here we are, I'm going to draw him and he's sitting here and he's got his preaching hand out because he's teaching Paul, right? And Paul is growing up next to Gamaliel's feet, which of course means that we have to draw Gamaliel's feet, which that's the idea. What does it mean he grew up at Gamaliel's feet? Did he literally grow up around the guy's old feet? What does it mean?
No.
Like, he submitted to Gamaliel.
Yeah, in his presence, he submitted to him. So Paul grew up learning from an important teacher from Jerusalem even, okay? Everyone says, Paul, you're a bad guy. Paul, you're saying that we shouldn't obey Moses. Paul says, hey guys, first, I'm from this city and I grew up with one of the teachers that you really like. How's that going to make them feel about him?
Better maybe.
They might start liking him some, right? All right. He was very zealous for God, even as you are today. Were they very zealous for God? Yeah, they were beating the fire out of him because they thought he was a bad guy. Paul says, I was zealous in my day too, even as you are today. And I persecuted this way unto death, binding and delivering into prisons both men and women. What's he saying that he was doing? What did he used to do? He persecuted the way to death into prison. What did Paul used to do?
Put people.
Yeah, he used to put the Christians in jail. He'd point, you gotta go to jail. So here I'm gonna have Paul. He's remembering back when he was younger, and he would make them go to jail. And you can draw the people sad, and they've got their hands in ropes, right? So they have to go, and there's their sad hair, and their sad stoop, and they're walking to jail, right? That's what he used to do. You get out of here because you're a bad guy. That's what he used to do to Christians. And you know this guy's a Christian because he's wearing a t-shirt with a cross on it. I'll just do that. So he's a Christian. He is doing that to the Christians. He said, I used to bind them up and put them in prisons, as also the high priest bears me witness. The high priest would tell you this about me. And all the elders, all the estate of the elders. So the high priest, did he know Paul?
Yes.
Yeah. Did all the elders there in Jerusalem know Paul?
No.
Yes.
Yes.
From whom also I received letters unto the brethren and journeyed to Damascus to bring them also, which were there, into Jerusalem in bonds for punishment. Paul also got a letter that he was allowed to go arrest people where? In Damascus. So he wasn't just doing it here in Jerusalem. He had a letter to go all the way to Damascus to arrest people. That's a big deal. So Paul is trying to say, I'm from here. I learned from Gamaliel. I know the high priest. I know the elders. And I used to persecute the church just the way you guys are doing it now. Do you see how he's connecting with them? He's not saying, you guys are big fat jerks. No, he's saying, I know how you feel. I used to do this too. Do you see how he's trying to connect with them and to show that connection? That's a good way to be. And it came to pass that as I made my journey and drew nigh unto Damascus, about noon, there suddenly shone from heaven a great light about me. Do you guys recognize this?
Yeah.
Yeah. What's it? Yeah, this is where he sees the great light from heaven. So you can draw clouds, and I'm going to draw this light coming down. I'll use my yellow pen as well. So there's the light, and Paul, I'm going to draw him like this because I know how he's going to feel. He's a little bit scared, right? Here's his beard. And I'm going to have his hand. I'll put his hands in prayer. He says fell down. He's probably laid down on the ground, but I'm going to have him kneeling here in prayer. That's the way I want to draw him this time. So there he is, and I'll get the yellow light shining down. Man, those are like the worst prayer hands. I have a hard time drawing prayer hands. I might need to get some of you kids to teach me how you do it. So there's prayer. You guys have a hard time drawing. It's okay. Sometimes I do too. So there. And he's praying. And here comes the light down from heaven. It's shining all around him, right? There. The light coming down. And Paul, he's been wearing his green outfit for so long. Okay.
Let's draw him in red.
He was
time.
The great light around me, and I fell to the ground, and I heard a voice saying unto me, Saul, Saul, why persecutest thou me? And I answered, Who art thou, Lord? Why did Paul call him Lord?
Because
he meant like master.
Yeah, Lord and master. Why did he call the voice speaking from heaven in the sky, coming in the light, Lord and Master?
Maybe because it made him bow down.
It's not just some guy named Jim. No one can do it, right? If there's a voice and a light and it's coming from heaven, it is the Lord. Like it can't be anything else. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So he's taking this very seriously. And the voice from heaven says, You're persecuting me.
Well,
I'm persecuting who? Do you see? That's what he means. That's what he's asking. Look at the text again. It's really neat. Why are you persecuting me? Who are you, Lord? And he said to me, I am Jesus of Nazareth, whom you persecute. And they that were with me, they beheld indeed the light, but they heard not the voice of him that spoke. And I said, what? Oh, I get the new sheet. I said unto the voice, unto him, what shall I do, Lord? And the Lord said unto me, arise, go into Damascus, and there it shall be told thee all things which are appointed for you to do. And when I could not see for the glory of the light, being led by the hand of them that were with me, I came to Damascus. So what happened when the light was done? What did Paul say? He couldn't see. And why can he not see? According to the way it says it in this verse.
the glory of
He's blind.
He was blind because of the glory of the light. I think last time I just did like eyes like that. And he can't see what he's doing, right? And so he's got his hands out and people are leading him. So you can draw somebody's hand holding him. And they're looking forward. And they got ears. And they're leading Paul along, right? And I'll give that a mustache and give him a smiley face there. And he's leading the way. And he's going to Damascus. But he doesn't know what's going on, right? Saul is confused. Now, what did Jesus say Paul needed to do? Paul goes, what should I do? What was he told to do?
Preaching Damascus.
Yeah.
And he was going to be told what to do.
Yeah, it's an interesting instruction. I think we talked about this when we looked at it the other time. He says first, arise, get up, and then second, go to Damascus, and then number 3, that's where you'll learn what you're supposed to do. Does Jesus have the power to tell him on the road?
Yes.
Yeah. That's kind of curious, isn't it? Why didn't Jesus just tell him there? Let's keep reading. Think about that. Why didn't Jesus just tell him on the road? All right. And one, Ananias, I can't remember how we drew Ananias when we talked about him before, so I'm just going to draw him here. I'm going to say he's a long nose, and he's got a happy smile, and he's got hair and an ear, and I'll give him a beard like this. He's got a beardy beard. And here comes Ananias. Ananias, a devout man according to the law. Is Ananias a good Jew? Yes. Yeah. Because he's devout according to the law. That'd be the law of Moses. And well reported of by all the Jews that dwelled there. Did the Jewish people like Ananias?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
He came unto me and standing by me said, Brother Saul, receive your sight. And in that very hour I looked upon him. And he said, the God of our fathers has appointed you to know his will and to see the righteous one. Who is the righteous one?
Jesus of Nazareth.
I think it's Jesus, the one he saw on the road, right? All right. God appointed you to know his will. We'll put that for first. A, to see his righteous one. B, to hear a voice from his mouth. Isn't that neat? To know God's will, to see the righteous one, and to hear the voice. For you shall be a witness for him unto all men of what you have seen and heard. And now, why do you wait? Why tarriest thou? Arise and be baptized and wash away your sins, calling on his name. You could say that is, being a witness would be A, B, C, D, and then baptizing could be E. And these are the instructions that he gets. I think that this is neat. So let's list this up here. These aren't necessarily all instructions, but I think it's kind of cool. So Ananias says, God has blessed you. Number 1, God has blessed you to know God's will. All right, so 1, to know. right? You can know God's will. I'll put God's will. That's a good thing. Is Paul the only person that's supposed to know God's will?
No.
Who else should know God's will?
Everybody.
Everyone.
All of us, right? Okay. To see the righteous one. To see the righteous one. Who is the righteous one?
Jesus.
Jesus. Okay. Can everybody today say, I want to see Jesus? And it happened? Bing.
No.
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 But is there a way to use the word see and it still be true today?
Yeah.
How can we see Jesus today?
In the eyes of the hope.
Being good and going to heaven.
Being good and going to heaven? What else?
The Bible.
Through the Bible? When you hear the story, yeah,
Maybe see someone act like godly.
acting
Like a
godly, yeah.
person.
And does it mean if I see Jesus, does it mean I know the color cloak he would wear and I know what his hair looks like?
No.
That's not important. But do you kind of feel like you know what Jesus is like?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You would recognize him by his behavior. That's a way we can see Jesus today. Hear his voice from his mouth.
That's why we draw him in green, because Jesus speaks to him in like dreams often.
Mm-hmm. See, okay. There's a glare if I have it on. That says voice. I don't know if you guys can see it. Oh, well.
Turn the light down.
So here, but if I turn it down, it'll still be there. Yeah. So is there a way that we can hear Jesus today?
Yeah.
In John chapter 1, it says, the word became flesh. Jesus is the word of God. Can you hear Jesus?
No.
If you read the word of God, right?
Yeah.
All right. The other thing that he was supposed to do for witness. Oh, I'm supposed to be all caps. Does witness have an H? I'm bad spelling. No, it doesn't have an H. Witness. Do you know what it means to be a witness? It means to you saw the thing and you can tell people about it.
It's not like
Paul
says-
saw Jesus, right? Paul saw Jesus, and so he can tell people about it. We haven't literally seen Jesus with our eyes, but can we tell people about the gospel?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll just put the word gospel next to it.
I drew an arrow too, where I drew the light on him when he's on the road.
Say what about it?
I drew an arrow to where I drew him on the road with the light.
Yeah. Oh, that's a good one.
Thanks.
The last thing that Ananias talks about here says, Paul, you need to be baptized. Is that something that people can do today?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's one. So these are all things that Paul was told by Ananias. The voice said, go to Damascus and it shall be told you what you need to know and what you need to do and what you need to think about. Can we do and think and take part in this stuff today?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't that cool?
Yeah.
You're just some kid. No. You're more than just some kid, right? But here we are, just some people, and we can do the same stuff. Isn't that neat?
Yeah.
That's really neat. That means that God can help us to be special and be part of God's special people. This is really cool stuff. All right, let's see what Paul does. Oh, I hope Paul does it. Wait, do you know if he does it or doesn't do it?
No, they don't.
He does it. We already read this earlier, right? He's just retelling the story. Okay. Verse 17. And it came to pass. Okay, so then he did that. All right. And it came to pass that when I had returned to Jerusalem, so he goes back to Jerusalem after being baptized. I'll draw the waters of baptism. And there's Paul. He's smiling. And the waters. Okay. He returned back to Jerusalem, and while I prayed in the temple, I fell into a trance, and I saw him saying unto me, who's the him? Jesus.
A capital H kind of him.
Yeah, right. My translation doesn't do the capitals. Some translations do. All right. Make haste and get you out quickly from Jerusalem, because they will not receive of your testimony concerning me. What does Jesus say?
They won't believe you.
They won't, yeah. Don't talk to them because they won't listen to you. Wait a minute. Don't talk to them because they won't listen to you. That's an odd instruction. They're not going to listen. Maybe Jesus wants Paul to go to a place where they will listen to him, right? But does Peter, look at what Paul does and see if he just obeys. And I said, Lord, they themselves know that I imprisoned and beat in every synagogue those that believed in you. And when the blood of Stephen, your servant, was shed, I was standing by, consenting and keeping the garments of them that killed him. What does Paul say?
Maybe he's saying like, I'm not worthy to do that.
Well, it's interesting. Paul is reminding them the story that he was there holding the garments and the cloaks. Remember that?
Yeah.
When they were killing Stephen, right?
Yeah.
And so he's saying, they know that I used to do this kind of thing. They'll listen to me, like as an old friend. And so here is a moment. I want to be very careful the way I say this. Paul argues with Jesus, not ugly, okay? Jesus says, you need to get out because they won't listen to you. And Paul says, I think they will listen to me. Is he being evil?
No, he's just saying,
No.
take this.
Right. It's interesting here. It's really interesting that God lets us talk with him. Isn't that interesting? And so Paul says, but I do think I can make a difference. Let's see what Jesus says. And he said unto me, depart, for I will send you forth far hence unto the Gentiles. What is Jesus's answer?
I'm trying to send you off to the Gentiles.
Yeah, you need to go anyways, he says. I have another work. And is your work to stay here in Jerusalem? No, it's to go out from Jerusalem to the whole world and teach Gentiles. Did Paul obey Jesus at that point? What do you think? Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
He did that. So when Jesus said, you need to go because they won't listen to you, Paul said, I think they will if I talk to them. And Jesus says, no, I have a different job for you. Can you imagine if Paul said, yeah, but wait, Jesus, let me explain it to you this way. Is that what he does?
No.
No. When he got an answer from God, he obeyed it. Okay. So remember, we need to remember that Paul is preaching to a lot of really angry Jewish people in Jerusalem. And so far in his sermon, he said, I'm from Jerusalem, I studied with Gamaliel, and I used to persecute Christians. When I was on my way to Damascus, I saw a light from heaven. And that light from heaven was Jesus. And Ananias, who was another good Jew, also says that Jesus is really important. So I used to be like you, and I was really concerned about stopping Jesus, but then I changed my heart about Jesus. He's telling them his story, right? He's trying to get them to change their heart about Jesus too. And then he says, Jesus wants me to preach to the Gentiles. Let's see what happens now. Jesus said, depart, for I will send you forth far hence unto the Gentiles. And they gave him audience unto this word. What word? Gentiles. The moment he said that word, they lifted up their voice and said, away with such a fellow from the earth, for it is not fit that he should live. He says the word Gentile, and they want him to die. And they cried out and they threw off their garments, and they cast dust into the air. Okay. What does it sound like they're doing again?
Now the rights are
Making
Attack him again.
Yeah.
giant.
Well, at least we can say this. We get to draw another riot.
and they heard him. They did hear him.
They did listen to him before they exploded, right? But they didn't let Paul finish his sermon. All right, so now we have to draw angry eyes, mouth, and they're, I don't know why they're, it says, my translation says threw off their garments. I'm hoping they had like undershirts on, so you can draw them like this, and they've got like their undershirts, and they're throwing their cloaks. I don't know why. How does that make you like show how cool and angry you are? I just threw my shirt. I don't get that at all. All right, and they're also throwing dust into the air, which that's really kind of dumb. I mean, they're just gonna make it big, dirty, dusty. Wait a second. Do they sound like adults, or do they sound like a 2-year-old brother or sister?
2 years.
Throwing dirt in the air.
Taking my clothes off.
You can draw them crying. They're probably crying in anger. But still, you know, like they're stomping their feet or whatever. And I don't have dust color.
Just use black.
I'll use like dust. There we go. Yeah, just like dust and mess. And they're angry. There's dust flying, and I'll do some green dust, not just purple dust, not just a purple haze, but a green dust. There it is. It's all dusty and it's nasty. And I'll give them red shirts because they're being so grouchy, right?
Before they probably had blue shirts though, because they were listening to Paul.
Well, they listened for a bit, but then when they heard a part that they didn't like, they stopped listening. And so here is an idea. If you listen to somebody talk because you like what they say, you're listening.
Mm.
But if you listen to someone talk because you like what they say, and then you stop listening to them talking because you don't like what they say, does that mean you're listening?
No.
If you only listen to the part you like, are you a good listener? No.
No.
Did you know that the Bible has things in it that I don't like? And I have to be very careful when I say that. But think about this. I need to love my enemy. Does that sound like fun?
No.
I'm going to do it. And I've tried to do it. But I don't, oh, I love it. It's so happy. No, it's hard. It hurts sometimes. It makes me nervous. It makes me feel anxious and stressed out. There are things in the Bible that I don't like to hear. Do I still need to do them?
Yeah.
If I say, oh, I listen to God, 9 of the 10 commandments, I listen to God.
You forgot the 10th.
If you drop one commandment because you don't like it, it means you don't listen. It means you don't listen. We need to listen to the whole thing that God says.
To be a rule follower,
So what?
To be a rule breaker, you only have to break one rule. To be a rule follower, you have to follow all of them.
Yeah. And thank God he helps us, because I've made some mistakes. I thank God that he helps me. All right, let's see what happens. All right, so they cry out and they're throwing dust and clothes in the air, and the chief captain commanded him to be brought into the castle. You better believe it, because they might get in trouble, bidding that he should be examined by scourging, and that he might know for what cause they shouted against him. What does it mean to scourge somebody?
Sounds kind of painful.
Yes.
It makes us with them.
Scourging is when you got this whip thing, and at the end of the whip cords, they tie metal and glass and sharp rock things, and then they whip it on you, and that's the way they're going to examine him. Does that sound very scientific?
No.
No.
No, they're basically going to whip him and beat him until they tell him what they want to hear.
But
Yeah, until he tells them what they
he's
want to hear.
telling. But he's already telling them the truth.
And so I'm going to draw Paul. And then, but I won't draw his eyes or mouth, because we're going to think about this. All right, so here's Paul. Do you think what he is going through today is a big surprise? Well, today, in that day. Do you think that that was a big surprise to Paul?
No.
I don't think it's a surprise either. Why would it not be a surprise?
Because he heard it was going to happen.
Yeah. So here's the question. I think we're all going to draw Paul a different way. What does Paul look like?
Well,
Does
he
he
knew
have
it was
sad eyes, angry eyes, scared eyes, hurt eyes?
He knew it was going to happen, and because his friends warned him and didn't want him to go, but he told them that he was prepared for it.
Yeah.
Determined that.
I'm just going to do that. Maybe I'll give him one worry. Kind of like a straight mouth and one worrying eyebrow. This sounds like it's a pretty hard day for Paul. Now we're going to end there, but it's going to be a little bit okay. Paul isn't going to get whipped. I'll tell you that much. They don't whip him. You have my permission to read the Bible and find out what happens. All right. Well, I'm going to close with that. Do you guys have any questions about what we talked about today?
No. I don't think so.
All right. Well, I guess we're going to go then, and I will, Lord willing, I'll see you in a couple days. See you guys.
Thank you.